What's up, guys? Welcome back to Claw and Ham. We're going to take a look at Horizon Forbidden West here, running on the MSI Claw, both plugged in and unplugged on performance mode. There's not a big difference in those, but there's enough to take a look at. So let's go ahead and get into it with the performance of Horizon here on the Claw. This is going to be 720p and XeSS on balanced, basically what I had to go with here to get some more performance out of it. And then graphics on low. You can go very low and gain about 2 FPS, more 3 sometimes in certain areas, but again, it can look rough. I just opted to go for low. Medium definitely out of the question when it came to this game. I did play unplugged and plugged in performance mode because the Claw does act a lot different than other devices when it comes to plugged in versus unplugged performance, which can be annoying playing games, testing games, and all of that. And we do see some difference here with Horizon 2 as well when we are doing some plugged in and unplugged. This spot here was about 29 FPS or so, not plugged in, 31 there, plugged in. And as we run around here, yeah, we might bounce up a little higher, but for the most part, we see very similar FPS plugged in versus unplugged in areas where we're like not combat, we're running around like environment and stuff like that. Even like towns and stuff don't always do a lot better. But what happens is the frame times do a little better, the CPU does a little better, and your lowest lows of FPS definitely aren't as low as unplugged, but it doesn't give you ultimately like a lot more performance. Like this spot we come up to winds up at about 30 FPS, and then we switch to unplugged again, and we're still at around 30, 31 here. So it really depends on where you're at, how much you gain. Again, if you're in combat, things get really busy, and the CPU is kind of taking more of a hit. A lot like on the go, being plugged in does help those scenarios. Now, side by side here, you can see the same thing, where we do get more of a boost here when shaders are compiling or we're loading into a different area here when we have plugged in versus unplugged. And then as we land here and get moving around, the difference isn't as drastic once things settle down, more back to our 2 or 3 FPS difference depending. But in those hard hit areas, you can see that there can be much more of a difference with that. And running around in the town area here with unplugged performance mode here actually worked out pretty well. I expected to see high 20s and low 30s here, which I did. And then when we switch this over to plugged in, it's very similar on the FPS. We get a little bit more, but I didn't get as many little dips and stutters. Again, with it plugged in, you get similar performance except for those hard hit areas where you'll gain more, but your lowest lows aren't as bad, frame time's a little better. Either way though, plugged in or unplugged, the game is going to be very difficult to run on the Claw right now. I mean, it is playable in some scenarios and instances. Again, here is the plugged in performance in combat, which again, you gain a little bit more here, and it wasn't too bad all in all. It just depends on where you're at in the game. The Claw is a strange device. It really is odd with its performance at launch. Here's unplugged in that same area, definitely a little bit lower, but not drastically. Kind of similar to what I was seeing on the Steam Deck. You see that dip down, and then the game, it has the lower lows that happen when it doesn't have that additional power from being plugged in. So that's something to be aware of with the Claw. It's just a different device when you're testing this thing, plugged in, unplugged, performance mode, which is about the same as balanced or AI, and then you have the battery saver mode, which is 20 watts, which wouldn't run a game like this very well. And yeah, it's just a weird device right now trying to test and that kind of thing. But the good thing for me was I didn't experience any crashes during testing the game here on the Claw, or the Go really for myself. And frame time stayed pretty good, even though FPS would dip down. And I think the game for the most part did stay fairly playable, even here on the Claw, with its just jankiness and odd things that will happen from time to time with the Ultra 7 here. But yeah, Horizon Forbidden West here on the MSI Claw. I think it's a playable experience, but again, that's going to be up to you to decide if when you go into those mid-20s and stuff in certain areas, maybe lower later in the game, if that's going to be alright for you. But there you go, guys. That's performance for the Legion Go, the MSI Claw, Horizon Forbidden West. Hopefully this gives you an idea how you want to run the game. Alright guys, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. As always, we really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.